What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Unreal Engine tutorial. Today, I will be showing you how to use my master material. So, your step one, what you're going to want to do, just to create the material instance, is to right-click on the master material and click Create Material Instance. Basically, this master material has all these nice parameters set up for you, just so you can plug things in and change some sliders so you can make the material that you want, right? So once you create this master material, it's going to pop up over here. So for this example, I'm going to show you how I textured or put the texture on the card pack. All right. I don't really know what you guys' experience with materials is, or texturing, or this, or anything at all. So I'm gonna stick to some very bare bones stuff here and go over some pretty rudimentary concepts, just in case you don't know them. If you do, then I'm sorry. You have to bear with me. So first up, we have our material instance right here. It's important that you name it MI underscore material instance, and then whatever it's named. So first up, we have our albedo. This is also called base color. And you'll see there's a bunch of tabs here, right? And for the ones that you want, you just click the check mark here. So this has an albedo texture. Click check yes. Do we want a texture for it? If you do, you click this check mark here, and this will show up, and giving you the option to input a texture here. So let's say I want to put my card pack texture in here. I search up card pack, boom, T underscore card pack albedo, and that pops up here. But let's say we don't want a texture and we just want to have a flat color. You just click the uniform color button, and you can change that right here with this color picker. I have some cool stuff in here just in case. I used it for the foliage because I wanted to have a gradient on the leaves. So if you want a gradient on your texture, you just click the use gradient button, click this, and then you have a bunch of cool parameters here that you can play around with. These are all pretty self-explanatory. Your gradient 1 color, your gradient 2 color, contrast for the gradient, height for the gradient, how high you want the middle section to be, and then if you want to invert it. So for the purposes of this tutorial, we are going to put in the card pack texture. So let's uncheck all of this. All right, that's back in there. So for the metallic, roughness, and ambient occlusion, this is what I'm going to go over next. These are going to use something called a packed texture. So basically, all three of these are going to have the same texture. They're all going to share the same material, as opposed to the base color, which only needed one texture for one thing. This is one texture for three things. This allows it to be a lot more optimized. It reduces storage, and this is just the industry standard. So if you want to plug in that ORM texture, occlusion, roughness, metallic, you just click has metallic texture, and you'll be prompted with this. So the ORM map, let me open this up for you. This is going to have three different channels on it, the R, the G, and the B. The ambient occlusion channel is stored in the R, so if we click on only R, or only display the R, you'll see it's just a black and white image. The white is the black is what's being, if you've ever seen an ambient occlusion map, it's black and white, and the black areas are being shaded and the white areas are unshaded. So if you see here in the red channel, we have the ambient occlusion map. So the black areas here and the planks, the indents in the planks, that's what's going to get shaded. In the G, here we have this. This is our roughness map. In the B, it's black because it's not metallic at all. So this is your ORM map. And then when you blend them all together, you'll get something orange and green like this. That's normal. Okay? And it's really, really crucial in your ORM map for it to work. You have to turn sRGB off. The way the master material is set up forces you to make sure you turn this off so that everything works correctly. If you don't turn this off, all your textures, all your ORM textures, all your base color textures and normal map textures are going to be imported with sRGB turned on. So it's important you go in here and just uncheck that. All right. Next up, if you don't want the metallic texture, just mess with the slider right here. 0 will be not metallic, 1 will be metallic. So let's plug that texture in because we do want that. All right. Next is our roughness. If you don't know what roughness is, this is basically how shiny your material is. So 1 is not shiny at all, and 0 is extremely shiny. And if you have no texture, you just mess with this parameter here. Unfortunately, it's not working, and now I look like I have egg on my face. And now I need to figure that out. Um, I was having this problem with this material the other day for my environment, and I'll have to check this out later, but in a perfect world, the 0 will be super, super shiny, and 1 would be not shiny at all. So this actually has a roughness texture, which is the ORM map. So it's gonna sample it from right here and display it for you. Okay, so the problem was I just didn't put in the card pack texture into here, so no texture in the roughness. That's not clicked on. You can change it with the slider here. That's all good. Next is your emissive. This does not have an emissive texture, so we can leave that unchecked, but let's say you needed an emissive texture. Black would be no shine, and white would be shine. But if you do want the whole thing to be emissive, you just click on emissive color, choose a color here, and then you can mess with the emissive intensity from here. 0 being non-intense, 1 being extremely intense. Finally, ambient occlusion. This material has an ambient occlusion within the ORM map, so we click that. But if you don't have an ambient occlusion texture, there's no reason to change it with a slider, because 0 would just be completely black, 1 would be nothing at all, so that's kind of pointless to have without a texture. Next is our normal map. If you don't have a normal texture, don't worry about it, you don't need to put anything in here, but let's say you do have a normal texture, which this does. You click your checkboxes, and then you go into your material, and let's find our card pack. Boom! That normal's on. Then we also have a slider here for your intensity. And then we also, for some fringe case materials, you're not going to need this all the time. You're hardly ever going to need this. But if you have an opacity map, you check this on here. And for example, if we click this one on, the black would be invisible and the white would be visible. And if we do want to use that, then we need to go down here to our material property overrides. Basically, the master material is not by itself set up for this, so you have to change it within the material property overrides and change it to masked. So now you'll see that some of it is invisible and some of it is not. But I can't really see us needing that for many things. And then we also have something in here called specular value. Just treat this as like another roughness map. So let's say you want it extra, extra shiny because we love it when it's shiny for some reason. 0 is not shiny, 1 is super shiny. Or if we crank it up even more, I guess it's as shiny as it can go right now. So let's ignore that. So this is our card pack. That's how we got that here. But let's say you don't have to keep watching the tutorial at this point. I've gone over everything. But, for an example, let's say we want to make a blockout material, okay? Let's turn off everything in here. And let's say we want to make a fairly shiny blue blockout material for our tiles, because that's a thing that we have had in the past. So let's go over that if you have the desire to learn. Let's go into our albedo. And that's not going to have a texture, so we'll turn that off. And then the uniform color, we're going to want a blue. So that's quite a nice, lovely blue. There's no metallic texture because this is not a metallic surface. If you do not have a metallic object, you do not want to turn metallic on. Even if you like the way it looks shiny, you do not want to have metallic on. This has no roughness texture, so let's mess with the roughness value here. And it's not working. Egg on my face, 1 second. Alright, I've diagnosed the problem. Apparently, for you to be able to use roughness within this material, you have to click specular value and set it to 1. For some reason, that's what enables light to refract off of the surface. So, that's the fix. I can make a note of that somewhere, or let you guys know if you didn't watch this full video. But, specular value is turned on. We want a moderately shiny material, so we have it set to that. Maybe we want a bit of a blue emissive, so let's give it that. That's more purple. Here we go. And then change the intensity. Let's do like 0.0. Let's do 0.1. There we go. Slightly blue. And no normal, no ambient occlusion. Specular is turned to 1 because it has to be for some unknown reason. And then there we go. That's our material. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And if you need anything else from me, please let me know.